This video is not sponsored and has no adverts. Hello and thanks for joining me for some more landscape photography. This evening I'm camping right down at the very southern tip of Anglesey at Abermenai Point. Now, my first camping trip out since September 2019. You can tell it's been too long when you can't remember how to put your tent up. Let me explain a bit more about why I've come to this particular location. We've had solid blue skies, as you can see, yet again more fabulous weather. But I thought if I go up into the mountains, it's really not going to do it for me. Plus the fact I am kind of limited in time. It's a Sunday evening, so I thought, well, if I'm up for sunrise, I can still be home in time for work. So that's the thinking today. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing in the way of photography. I have got a really long line of sight across to the towers on Llanddwyn Island, and I've got my very long lens with me, so it may be that as the sun goes down behind it, I can get an unusual angle on it, but it really does depend on how it all pans out with the light, because it's really intense at the moment. The other option, of course, is some projected light over onto the mountains, again probably using the long lens. This whole area is pretty nondescript, and it's a sort of place where you really do have it to yourself. It's a good 3-mile walk from the nearest parking. You can get here by going to the car park for Llanddwyn Island. Instead of turning right on the beach, turn left and walk for about 3 miles until you can't go any further. That's kind of where I am. And there's a huge wide estuary, so I've taken a bit of a shortcut across because it's low tide. But of course, when the tide's in and it's high, you actually have to walk around in a huge circle. So kind of lends itself to a really long walk with a backpack, but stop over for the night. For sunrise, the sun will come up along the Menai Strait. It's forecast to be another glorious sunny day, so we'll see what we can do with that. But as I said, not entirely sure there's really much to be seen right here. I sort of don't care though. As you know from recent videos, I'm at the point now where I'm out and about. Yes, I've got my cameras, but I'm hiking and camping, and if I get some photography, great. If I don't, well, that kind of doesn't really matter too much. But stick around, because you never know. I wasn't too confident on the last one, and one or two of the images turned out quite well. Well, that's the washing up taken care of. Almost got my feet wet there. With about an hour to go till sunset, it's time to start thinking about some photography. Well, it's just turning out to be slightly more challenging than I'd originally anticipated. It's still only April, which is why it's gone really cold now. We get on to about 8:30. I've got about 10 minutes to go before sunset. It's turned out to be quite challenging because I didn't really get any interesting light over on the mountains. and also the shot that I was hoping for with my line of sight across to the towers on the island hasn't worked out. The sun's moved around too far and I can't get them in the shot, so I'm going to do a standard sunset. Could be anywhere, doesn't matter. It's not going down into the sea. I've got a little finger of Llanddwyn Island running out underneath it, and I'm going to get in quite tight. I've got a bit of haze on the horizon, so it's actually colouring up quite nicely, but it really is very much just going to be about the reflection on the sea leading you up to a nice big sun just as it kisses the horizon. So that's what I'm going for with this one, and then I am going to attempt the towers once I've lost the sun, because I'm going to have probably about 10 minutes with a bit of colour in the sky, and I have got some quite nice clouds leading out above it. Earlier on I had a transatlantic jet going past at about 35,000 feet, leaving the ugliest contrail you've ever seen, and of course they are notoriously difficult to clone out in post. So hopefully this shot will come off. Probably going to shoot it at something like 120 millimeters, something in that sort of range. Dead easy from an exposure standpoint, won't need to blend it. I might go for it once the sun's gone down, the shot of the towers. Might go for a long exposure on that one. We'll see how it pans out. So I got my sunset shot on the card, not too difficult. The only thing I had to be careful of was that there's a really stiff breeze, and so I had to be sure that I didn't get any camera shake, so I needed to make sure my shutter speed was high enough. So a bit of manipulation, but not too difficult. But then I got really lucky. Once the sun had dipped behind the horizon, there's a really high bank of cloud just coming out at a beautiful angle immediately above the towers on Llanddwyn Island. So I've got in tight on that and taken loads of shots. I've been really busy with it because I figured it could just switch off at any minute. But the cloud couldn't have been more perfectly positioned because it's the only one in the entire sky, and it's high enough to catch the light. The sun has been down now for quite a while, probably about 20-30 minutes or so, but that cloud is still alight now and it hasn't budged, so I've really been able to take my time over it. I'd like to be a bit closer. I'd like to have some detail in the towers, but there is no line of sight from this angle at all. So even if I was actually on the island, I wouldn't get that cloud in the shot. So I could only do something from this angle, or if I was out at sea. Anyway, that was quite good fun. I'm now absolutely freezing, so it's time to get in my tent and get the flask with the whiskey out, watch a bit of YouTube on my phone, get an early night, and then we'll see what happens in the morning. Cheers. Oh, good morning, and it is an absolutely glorious morning here. I've been up quite a while already. There was a fantastic full moon setting into the Irish Sea. Unfortunately, it hasn't set yet and it's still quite separated from the horizon, but the sun's due up any minute. The light has come into the sky, so I didn't have the contrast. So I have taken a shot slightly higher than I would have liked above the horizon, but we'll see how that one works out. I've been shooting across the Menai Strait here, got a low tide and the sandbars are showing up, creating some really nice shapes in the channel. The sun's due to come up over the Carneddau in about 5 minutes. So this first shot, quite wide, just really about the shapes and textures. I'm on a shingle bank and the first light is catching the row of shingle down in front of me. So I quite liked that and I wanted to keep that in my composition. Now I've got some beautiful layers over the far side in the Carneddau, so what I'm going to do now is put my long lens on and get set up for the sun peeping over the hills in a few minutes' time. Oh. Just getting some test shots in here, make sure that my focus is nice and sharp. Now my line of sight right across the strait at the moment has the sun coming up pretty much immediately behind Carnarvon Castle. Now it's really only just a silhouette of the two main towers of the castle on the waterfront, but that hint of it is quite nice, and I'm in at 150 millimeters, so I'm hopeful that it should work out. But what I really want is just that very first rim of the sun appearing above the hills. It's supposed to have happened 5 minutes ago, but of course the thing is that the sunrise time is based on a flat horizon, and I've got a bit of snowdonia in the way. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I love this kind of sunrise. So often the horizon is shrouded in mist or cloud, and really by the time the sun puts in an appearance, the light is already harsh. But every now and then you can get a really crisp silhouette of a mountain with just the very first crescent of the sun appearing above it. That's what I'm hoping for today. And after all this blurb, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to look like a right chump. But you won't see it anyway, because I'll just can the vlog. Not bad for April. Absolutely fabulous. If the rest of the year goes on like this, it could be a winner. So that worked out really well. I had it positioned exactly right. The sun came up just a smidgen slightly too far to the right than I would have liked. And it's all over in seconds. I mean, I probably got 4 or 5 frames off on my 3-second timer between each one before I had 2/3 of the sun visible, and it was completely unusable because it's really bright already, which is great because it's warming me up nicely. So what I'm doing at the moment is just hanging about and just seeing what happens with any potential projected light onto any of these peaks. At the moment, it's a whole series of silhouettes. There are some quite nice layers, but not really anything that I can make use of from a photographic standpoint. Looking across at Snowdon, might be able to do something with that. So there may be 1 or 2 bonus images for me to tack on to the end of this. And Ereval over on the Llŷn Peninsula looks quite nice at the moment. So I might point my lens over there. Certainly going to hang around for the next hour or so because the light is going to be really nice for another 45 minutes, and it would be mad not to take advantage of it. Normally by now at 6:15 a.m. I'd have been at my desk for a quarter of an hour, so I'm pinching a bit of time off today because I've still got about a 3.5 mile walk back to the car. Hey ho, I can always work late. Well, now I'm back where I left off last night, overlooking the Irish Sea. I've come round the headland from the Menai Strait where I was a little bit earlier. And of course, at this time of morning, the sunlight is now illuminating the 2 towers on Llanddwyn Island. Of course, they're about 3.5–4 miles away. But I thought, well, since they're lit up, let's give it a go. What I've also done, because there isn't a breath of wind in the air, I think I can get away with a high resolution shot at 300mm. Now that's a big risk, because even the slightest hint of any movement is going to completely ruin the image. But nevertheless, we'll see how that pans out. But I'm going to leave it there for this one. It's time for me to pack up and head off. Thank you so much for coming along with me. I really hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, why not subscribe now and join me next time? Cheers.